Most of us here in America are sitting at home and watching and waiting as the global crisis seems to get worse. We're waiting for the point where things start to calm down. We can return to normal life. But for the time being, we are watching the president of the United States do his job. And as it turns out, poll after poll after poll shows most Americans think he's doing a pretty good job. Yet the media class is outraged, shocked. They can't believe it. There's no way these polls are real. Americans can't like the president. Oh, come on, man. You were wrong in 2016. Why can't you be wrong today? I mean, they're just wrong consistently in a lot of reasons, in a lot of different ways. But now we have a quite humorous story. Andrea Mitchell of MSNBC fears skyrocketing approval for Trump amid pandemic. The story from MRC says, during her her 12 p.m. Eastern show on MSNBC, anchor Andrea Mitchell revealed her greatest fear amid the coronavirus pandemic: Donald Trump's approval rating going up. She fretted over likely Democratic nominee Joe Biden having difficulty getting his message out during the crisis and support for the president skyrocketing. If Joe Biden can't get his message out, it has nothing to do with the coronavirus. It's because the dude can barely speak English. And listen, even his supporters have come out in one of the funniest things I've ever seen. The Atlantic wrote an article saying, "Stay alive, Joe Biden. Democrats need little more from the frontrunner beyond his corporeal presence." If you didn't see that video, I recommend you check it out on this channel from the other day. This woman, Alex Wagner, actually goes on to say that Joe Biden has nothing going for him, no resources, no real message, but he's alive. Yeah, great. If Joe Biden can't get his message out, it's no one's fault but the Democrats and Joe Biden. Turning to former Obama administration official Jim Messina, Mitchell anxiously noted, quote, "There is politics involved. We've heard very little from, for instance, the most likely nominee of the Democratic Party, Joe Biden. He's having difficulty projecting through this crisis as the campaign goes totally on hold." Yeah, well, that's his fault. Bernie Sanders going nuts. He's holding big old fundraisers, raising tons of money. And if that wasn't bad enough, the MSNBC host referenced positive poll numbers for Trump. We're also seeing some polls indicating the president's approval ratings among Democrats and independents skyrocketing to their highest levels yet. Some 60% approval ratings for the way he's handling this crisis as he continues to hold these briefings. The briefings are working for the president. In frustration, she added, "No matter what he says, people seem to be seeing him as a leader. At least more people do." Messina desperately tried to reassure his fellow Democrat. "Oh no, Trump's doing a good job. We can't have that. The country needs to suffer, right? Is that what they really want? Look, I don't care. I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary. I just laughed when he got elected because people like this freak out and screech like banshees. If Trump is doing a good job, good. The country's doing well, right?" You can really, you really see the mask slip when they're actually angry that things are going well. The market is starting to rebound. We had a major market rally. We're potentially on the cusp of a stimulus package. Of course, Democrats are obstructing. And the American people are happy to see Trump on the TV every day, reassuring them, and they approve of what he's doing. But of course, those in media they don't want to accept it. They're in denial. Here's what Messina said. "Yeah, as you know, Andrea, you and I share a healthy skepticism on public polling. And I think you know what polling shows right now is not going to be what happens, right? The problem President Trump has is he's made a bunch of promises that have turned out to be wrong on this virus. And going forward, once we get really deep into this, in the next couple of weeks, the American public's going to look back and say, what did you say? What did you say was happen? And what did you say was going to happen? And what actually happened?" Now, I'm assuming that was an error, so I added the gonna. The Obama hack, the MRC calls him, concluded, "I would reject all of the polls that you see back and forth. President Trump's comments are someday going to be on a television ad, and it's going to be really difficult for him to rebut in the fall of this year." So they say they then present a transcript. So I do want to read a little bit of the transcript because it's funny. I got to point out, though, if you didn't see my main segment, go watch it. There's a poll from CBS showing that the American people trust Trump by 1 percentage point more than the national media. That's right. When it comes to the media and Trump, the American people are more likely to trust Donald Trump. That is amazing. So you want to talk about the things he said? You want to talk about hit ads or whatever? Not going to work. Nobody's going to care. Trump supporters don't care. Independents are sick and tired of media lies. And you're sitting here complaining about a guy who's apparently doing well. Why? Don't we want to root for the president? MSNBC host Joe Scarborough said we have to support the president and help him succeed here. This is a really serious situation. Oh no. Now they're starting to realize Trump could actually get reelected because he's handling the crisis well. Oh, too bad. So Mitchell said, I wanted to bring in Jim Messina. This is politics involved. We've heard very little from, for instance, Biden. We're all seeing polls indicate. We'll skip forward. These briefings are working for the president. No matter what he says, people seem to be seeing him as a leader. At least more people do. And so then they go on basically to say the same thing. It concludes, Messina says, but right now, President Trump, I would reject all these polls. Okay, so they're just rehashing what we already know. I'll bring you now to the next story where the media just can't get a handle on the fact that they're wrong. It's really weird for me because I've seen so many people on Twitter that are saying so Donald Trump retweeted Dan Scavino. Dan Scavino is a social media guy, I think. Scavino retweeted Lou Dobbs, who tweeted out Gallup. It was this long circuitous, retweet thing. And these journalists were mocking Trump. And someone tried claiming that the poll was a Twitter poll or something and that they don't know what real polling is. And they were laughing. And I'm like, at a certain point, don't you accept that you're wrong and you're on the wrong side of history? You know what I mean? Like, if Donald Trump's approval rating on the coronavirus, according to Gallup, is 22 points positive at 60%, at a certain point, don't you say, I guess I was wrong? Take a look at what people have to say. Most people are in agreement that Trump is doing a good job. Nope. The media can't do it. The orange man is bad, I say. He must be bad, no matter what, even if people like what he's doing. From The Atlantic, Americans' revulsion for Trump is underappreciated. As Democrats fret about their own prospects, many fail to recognize the president's fundamental weakness. They somehow took a positive story for the president and turned it negative. I kid you not. There was a study done a while ago that found like 93% of all major cable news stories about the president was negative. And now we have good news. Well, to be fair, ABC put out a story saying that 55% of people approve of Donald Trump's handling of the coronavirus. So The Atlantic said, I got an idea. Let's take the good news, turn it into bad news, and ignore the data and just claim, no, you're wrong. People actually hate the president. The polls are meaningless. They love to cite the polls when the polls are bad, and they say the polls are wrong when the polls are good for the president. When I look at polls, what I like to do is either compare the poll to itself so you can see an up or down movement using the same methodology, or to use Real Clear Politics polling aggregate. So we can look at the past 8 polls going back several weeks and see what the approval rating is based on the past several weeks. For Donald Trump, according to the RCP average, his handling of the coronavirus is an overwhelming net positive. The last 4 polls are really, really good for the president. Well, you can never, you got to figure out how to get clicks. That's the issue, right? So what you'll see is sometimes they're static. There will be a blip. A survey will come out saying Trump's disapproval is really high. But when you compare that one bad poll for the president to all the other polls, you'll realize it's noise. There's a margin of error. Sometimes you'll see like a steady, 44% for the president, and then all of a sudden it'll drop down and then spike back up. That's because sometimes polls are wrong. So by using an aggregate, you're more likely to get a clearer picture. Well, whenever that spike happens, all of a sudden every outlet's going to put out a story. Trump approval rating tanks to the worst ever. What about when it's the best ever? They don't write it. Of course, conservative sites do. And Trump has been enjoying some of his highest approval ratings period over the past several months. Just before the outbreak got serious, Trump's approval rating reached an all-time high in the aggregate. That means of all polls combined, the average number was higher than it's ever been. So even when they don't have bad polling, here's what you get. The release on Friday of an ABC News Ipsos poll indicating that 55% of Americans approved of Donald Trump's handling of the coronavirus, 12 points higher in the previous week, prompted another round of fatalistic chatter in certain quarters of the political establishment. Shocked by Trump's victory in 2016, some left-leaning commentators and rank-and-file Democrats alike have been steeling themselves for his re-election in 2020, noting that most presidents win second terms. That, at least before the pandemic, the economy was humming along, and more recently that, during moments of national disaster, Americans tend to rally around the leader they have. But these nuggets of conventional political wisdom obscure something fundamental, something that even Democrats have trouble seeing. The United States is in revolt against Donald Trump. That's right. even though the polls are saying that they aren't and they approve of his job, let's just write that they are. And there you have it. That's how the media works. It has become so absurd. I don't know what these companies are going to do, to be honest, right? They've built their identity on Orange Man Bad. So if at any point the narrative flips and Americans start liking the president, how do they just change their opinion? They can't. People would call them out and say, hey, wait a minute. You were just saying you didn't like the president. All of a sudden you come out as a Trump supporter when you see that most people like the president. I mean, it's fair. They could come out and say, you know what, we were wrong. We'll change our opinions. How about you just be honest and talk about the guy in like a regular way that regular people do? He's got a lot of problems. He's done some stuff that's pretty good. A lot of people really love him. A lot of people hate him. Right now, people seem to think he's doing a good job. Is it really that hard? Apparently it is. Because if The Atlantic, which is an Orange Man Bad publication, came out right now praising the president, then the confirmation bias of their audience would be shattered and their audience would be outraged. So for a big network, they have to just write it, even if it is patently absurd. The United States is in revolt against Trump, even though most people approve of the job. Okay, you know what, man? The media is breaking. Their minds are imploding. What more can be said? I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.